In the busy rush of life, some people are seen, and others are invisible. But sometimes, the most invisible person carries the greatest light. This is the story of Mr. Walter the janitor, who changed an entire company without he ever raising his voice. Mr. Walter was the oldest employee in the company. He had gray hair, tired but gentle eyes, and always a slow, patient smile on his face. For 22 years, he had been a silent fixture in the building. You'd see him in the early morning, wiping down windows until they gleamed, the rising sun reflecting in the glass. He'd be there late at night, sweeping the long, empty hallways, his broom making a soft, rhythmic sound. He picked up the trash no one else cared about, the forgotten coffee cups and crumpled papers of a busy day. Every morning, without fail, he would greet everyone he passed with a warm, "Good morning," most of the time. The busy employees, their minds already on deadlines and meetings, would walk right past him, their ears deaf to his kindness. He was there, but he wasn't really seen. To most, he was just part of the scenery. But one person did notice him, though not in a good way. That person was Mr. Hartman, the human resources supervisor. Hartman was a man who wore his authority like a suit of armor. He was strict, proud, and had a sharp tongue for anyone he considered beneath him. His voice often echoed through the office, snapping at staff to move faster, or blaming others for even the smallest mistakes. He never returned a greeting, least of all from the janitorial staff, whom he treated as disposable. To him, Mr. Walter wasn't a man with a name. He was just the old cleaner. One morning, the tension between them became impossible to ignore. Rushing down the hallway, distracted and angry, Hartman stumbled, spilling his hot coffee all over the freshly polished floor. He didn't apologize. He didn't even acknowledge his own clumsiness. Instead, he whirled around and shouted, "Walter, clean this up, and be quick about it." His voice was filled with a cold, unnecessary cruelty. Everyone who heard it winced. Walter, who had been nearby, simply bowed his head, retrieved his mop and bucket, and silently cleaned the mess without a word of complaint. A few co-workers whispered amongst themselves, "Why is he so harsh on that old man?" Later, one of them quietly asked Walter how he could stand it. Walter just offered his gentle smile and said, "Some hearts are wounded. Hurt people often hurt others." He saw something no one else did. What no one at the company knew was the secret pain Mr. Hartman carried. Just a few months earlier, he had lost his wife in a sudden, tragic accident. His world had shattered, and in its place, a bitter, angry silence had grown. He had emotionally shut down, building walls around his heart to keep everyone out. Every shout that echoed in the office, every rude gesture, every harsh word he threw at his colleagues, it all came from a place of deep, unbearable brokenness. He was drowning in grief, and he was taking it out on everyone around him. Mr. Walter suspected this, not because someone had told him, but because he had a gift for listening with his heart. He saw the pain behind the anger, the loneliness behind the pride. He didn't judge, he simply understood. One evening, long after the chatter of the office had faded and the building had fallen quiet, Walter was mopping the top floor. The city lights twinkled outside the vast windows. Everyone had gone home, except for one person. Mr. Hartman was still in his office, the door slightly ajar. As Walter passed by, he heard a sound that stopped him in his tracks. Quiet, choked, sobbing. He paused, his mop resting in his hands. He knew this was a sacred, private moment. After a moment of hesitation, he walked to the door and knocked gently. "Sir, may I come in?" he asked, his voice soft. Hartman's head snapped up. He wiped his tears away angrily, his face a mask of fury and shame. "No. "Leave me alone," he barked. "You don't understand anything." But Walter didn't leave. He slowly opened the door, walked over to the desk, and quietly placed a box of tissues on it. Then, he moved to a chair in the corner of the room and simply sat down. He didn't speak, day. He didn't offer advice or platitudes. He just sat there, a quiet, steady presence in the overwhelming silence of Hartman's grief. For several long minutes, the only sound was the hum of the building's ventilation. Finally, the dam broke. Hartman's shoulders shook, and he buried his face in his hands. "She was my whole life," he confessed, his voice ragged with pain. "And now I'm alone. I don't know how to keep going." Walter leaned forward slightly. His voice was filled with a deep, knowing empathy. "You're not alone, sir," he said softly. "Pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Hartman looked up, his eyes filled with surprise. In that moment, he wasn't a supervisor, and Walter wasn't a janitor. They were just two human beings, one of whom was offering a lifeline to the other. For the first time in months, Hartman felt seen. Not as a boss, not as an angry man, but as a person who was hurting. The next morning, a ripple of shock went through the office. Mr. Hartman walked in, and instead of his usual scowl, he paused at the entrance. "Good morning, everyone," he said quietly. People looked up from their computers, stunned into silence. It was a small gesture, but it was the beginning of a profound transformation. Okay? Over the following weeks, the office atmosphere began to change. Hartman stopped shouting. He started apologizing when he was wrong. He began to listen to his team, really listen. He would thank people for their work, his tone softened by a new humility. The fear that had once surrounded him was slowly replaced by a tentative respect. One afternoon, he found Walter cleaning in an empty conference room. He walked in and stood there for a moment before speaking. "I owe you more than an apology," Hartman said, his voice thick with emotion. "You treated me with kindness when I deserved only anger. You healed a part of me, a part no one else even tried to reach." Walter looked up from his work and gave his usual, gentle smile. "Sometimes," he said, "kindness is the only bridge people have left." A few months later, the company held its annual awards ceremony. The biggest award of the night was a new one, the Heart of the Company Award, created to honor the employee who best embodied the company's values. Everyone buzzed with anticipation, speculating that a top sales manager or a star team leader would win. The CEO walked up to the podium, a smile on his face. "This year," he began, "the person who truly changed our company culture never asked for recognition. He never led a big project or closed a major deal. He simply lived his life with quiet compassion. And in doing so, he showed us all the way." The room fell silent. "I'd like to call to the stage Mr. Walter." A wave of shock, then a thunderous applause, filled the room. The entire company rose to their feet. Some people were crying, others were clapping until their hands hurt, and many felt a pang of shame for all the years they had overlooked this incredible man. Walter walked slowly to the stage, looking overwhelmed. Hartman stood in the crowd, tears streaming down his face. He whispered, just to himself, "Thank you for changing me first." Walter accepted the award, and when he spoke, his voice was humble and clear. He said only one thing: treat people with dignity. Everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. In a world where voices shout and hearts often grow cold, kindness remains the quiet, relentless force that can melt even the hardest stone. You never truly know the storm someone is carrying inside. A gentle word, a patient moment, a soft heart. These things have the power to change a life. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share and subscribe for more content that inspires